Produced in high definition by Fox 50. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight, a Sampson County boy vanishes and a star student from Terry Sanford High. Runaway or foul play. NC Wanted in high definition starts now.
Good evening, I'm Gerald Owens. Welcome to another edition of NC Wanted. Until now, our cases have profiled fugitives and victims of violent crime. Tonight, we change our focus to a different type of victim. We dedicate this show to cases where the victims may still be out there and alive. They are the missing persons who come from towns and cities throughout our state. We begin tonight with one of the most famous missing persons cases, not only in North Carolina, but the entire nation. It's been 7 years since the disappearance of then 4-year-old Tristan Allen Myers, more commonly known as Buddy. It's October 5th, 2000. Tristan Buddy Myers and his aunt Donna Myers have just returned from a day in town. Donna starts Buddy's favorite Barney video, then takes a seat on the couch. Buddy is on the floor playing with his wrestling figurines. The Myers Chihuahua Buck is close by his side. A short time later, both Buddy and Donna doze off. What seems like only seconds later, Donna is jarred awake when the phone rings. It's her husband calling to check on his wife and their new addition. As they're talking, Donna scans the room and notices Buddy is gone.
Buddy. Hey, Buddy, are you out here?
Buddy, Buck, and Buddy's puppy, who stays in a cage outside, are nowhere in sight. Donna's daughter-in-law comes over to help her look for Buddy, but minutes turn into hours, and there is still no sign of the boy, so they call 911.
Tristan!
Thousands of searchers from sheriff's deputies to the 82nd Airborne tirelessly canvass miles and miles around the house. Then, 5 days after Buddy's disappearance, the Chihuahua Buck returns home, and Buddy isn't with him.
Buddy!
But that doesn't dampen anyone's spirits. The Myers and the search parties keep looking. Surprisingly, 5 days after the first dog disappears, the puppy makes his way back to the Myers' home. But once again, Buddy does not. Then, in 2003, 3 years after Buddy disappears, Donna and John Myers get a phone call that changes their lives.
At this point, we have not yet talked to Mr. Quick.
That is not their little boy.
Authorities tell them they may have found their nephew in Illinois. This boy goes by the name of Eli Quick. He's an orphan, living on the streets, abandoned by his father. Buddy and Eli have a number of striking similarities. Besides being the same age and having the same eye color, they both have scars on the left side of their necks and on the top of their heads, and both had broken the same leg at one point in time.
You know, our first hurdle was, are these two children identical? They are not.
Devastated by the news, his family continues to remain hopeful that Buddy will return one day.
Buddy, I'm gonna chase you! Run, Buddy!
After 7 years, investigators say they still treat this as a missing persons case. A few years ago, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children created an age progression photo that shows what Buddy would look like today. On July 16th of 2007, he turned 11. If you think you've seen Tristan Buddy Myers, call us right now toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to our website at ncwanted.com and click on Report a Tip. You don't have to reveal your identity. Now, we turn our attention to our featured case of the evening, the disappearance of Pamela Michaels Waldher. Pamela Michaels Waldher should be on her way to an Ivy League school, almost 19, maybe in love, with the world in front of her. But she's missing, reportedly last seen January 22nd of 2005.
Steve and I both talked to her on Friday the 21st, and that's the last contact we've had with Pam.
The day before she disappears is a good one. Pam takes first place in a regional business competition. That night, she attends a military ball with her boyfriend Harrison, an event she's been excited about for months.
I had told her that I would do her hair for the ball. Due to a scheduling conflict, I ran very short and had nearly zero time to do her hair, and she was panic-stricken. She was very upset, very angry, and the long and short of it is I let her down.
When they come home from the dance, everything seems fine until Harrison leaves.
Bye.
Then she and her father, Bo Garcia, get into a heated argument.
Why didn't you come home earlier today?
I didn't think that I would ever see her that angry in my life.
You know,
She didn't have anything really to say to me outside the monosyllabic grunts or admonitions, if you will.
Bo says Pam spends most of Saturday in her room. That night, she talks on the phone with Harrison. Bo says on Sunday, January 23rd, he tries to talk to Pam through her bedroom door, but there is no response. That's when he forces his way into her room and sees that she is gone.
Her book she normally carries in her backpack is dumped all over the floor. I started calling her friends, my grandparents, and nothing.
Later that day, Bo files a missing persons report with the Fayetteville Police Department. Pam is listed as a runaway, and the report states she is a danger to herself. 2 days later, Pam's belongings are found in a remote area of Fort Bragg. Her jacket is folded neatly with the backpack placed on top.
We used both our canine officers, we used our mounted officers, we used our search and rescue team and officers on foot to search this area.
In the meantime, her family in Washington State is shocked by her alleged behavior. Is Pam the type of girl who would pack a bag and leave home without warning? Pamela Michaels Waldher was born October 27th of 1988. Her parents, Bo and Renee, are 16 years old. The two teenagers go their separate ways. Pam is taken in and raised by her maternal grandparents.
Our relationship with Pam was more of a daughter than a granddaughter. We couldn't have loved her more if she'd been our own child. Well, she was just full of happiness. She was a really low-maintenance, easy child.
Growing up, Pam spends a lot of time with her family and enjoys traveling. From a young age, she shows an eagerness to learn.
She had a real thirst for knowledge. She was bright. History was a real interesting subject to her. I'd come home from work and she and Steve would be sitting on the couch watching the History Channel together.
Pam's biological father, Bo, enlists in the Army shortly after she's born. He eventually moves to Fort Bragg to work as a flight engineer and has little contact with his daughter until she turns 12. In December of 2000, Pam and her father begin to establish a long-distance relationship.
Slowly but surely, we were talking to each other almost every night. And I began to learn more about what I'd missed.
Happy birthday to Santa.
Over the next 2 years, Pam and Bo see each other frequently. After a 2-week stay in Fayetteville, Pam decides she wants to leave her grandparents in Washington State to live with her father in North Carolina.
It was very good in the beginning. The first 2 to 3 months were extraordinary. It was so much better than I thought it could have been. She really was caring, loving, and genuine.
When Pam is 14, she begins attending Terry Sanford High School. Early in the year, she tries out for the debate team. Her coach immediately recognizes her potential.
I could tell by the way she wrote her pieces, her debate pieces, that she was quite a student, quite an honor student.
Over the next 18 months, Pam carries a 4.0 GPA, working toward her dream of being a lawyer.
Her answers to questions were always right on target. It told me that she really was a student that had it on the ball. She was really smart.
Pam has always been academically challenged from her own volition. She focuses on those things that she wants. She has very high aspirations.
Later that year, she meets Harrison Hurley, and they quickly develop feelings for each other.
I met her in my math class. She sat next to me and she was playing a game on her PDA. It was like Valentine's Day, and I just like happened to give her this little stuffed bear.
He was probably the prime example of a young lady seeking out somebody who's like their dad. He and I both have a very deep voice. We're about the same height, dark hair. We're relatively mild-mannered or almost tentative when it comes to dealing with her.
Despite Pam's outward success, her family says she is battling some inner demons. She tries to commit suicide when her grandparents tell her she can't move in with her father, and again after she arrives in Fayetteville. Her grandparents say she never suffered from mental illness, but her father disagrees.
At the time, I didn't realize it until after I read a little bit about bipolar disorder. She did have some symptoms.
Pam is typically a very happy, even-keeled person, and quite frankly, had very few lows until she started obsessing about being with her father.
After she moves to North Carolina, Pam talks with her grandparents several times a week and goes to visit them regularly.
Hey, Grandma, how are you?
I had my competition today, and I placed first, so I'm going to state. I guess we'll try you guys in cell phones. You might not be home. Talk to you later. Love you much. Bye.
The last time we talked to her was after she had won this debating contest, and she was so excited, and we said, well, we'll come back, watch you at state.
Outwardly, everything seems to be going well, but those closest to her say that over time, Pam and Bo develop a tumultuous relationship.
Twice in the months before she became missing, she had called and asked Steve to get her a ticket home, and each time he made those arrangements and he called her back and he said, you fly out on this airline at this time and it's all set. And she'd say, well, let me talk to my dad.
I did hear her talk multiple times how he was really good, but I also heard about the fights. So, I mean, you can look at it as a leaf. A leaf always has two sides.
Everything was serious all of a sudden. She would come into class, she would be kind of quiet. I knew from hearing the other side of conversations that she would have with him on the phone that he could be verbally abusive.
At Christmas time, she was very not Pam in regard of socializing with the family. She would come out periodically to make appearances, and she had lost about 30, 35 pounds from beginning of the school year, and she didn't look the same.
Many of her indicators are very subtle. You don't pick up on them unless you were watching intently. Some of her mannerisms were beginning to change to what had led up to her attempting to take her own life. I was seeing a flashback. I was seeing it happening all over again, and I was getting very nervous.
Few people other than her father believe Pam just packed her belongings and left home. In the 2 years she's been missing, family and friends question the circumstances surrounding her disappearance and wonder what really happened to her. Pamela Waldher is an attractive honor student who moved from Washington State to Fayetteville to live with her estranged father. But 18 months after she moves in, she mysteriously disappears in January of 2005. When she moves to Fayetteville, Pam's grandparents make sure she has the means to travel back to Washington at a moment's notice.
She had Delta frequent flyer miles, and that way she knew that she could come back if she ever felt that, she wasn't happy.
We've checked her social security number. There's known bank accounts that have money in it that Pam had access to, and there's been no activity whatsoever.
Her belongings are found nearly 20 miles away from her father's home.
She has to go through Fort Bragg. She has to go through Spring Lake, North Carolina. So she has to go through basically 2 cities and a large portion of Fayetteville until she gets to where the bag is found. Nobody has ever said that they've seen her walking there.
Her last reported phone conversation was at 7:30 p.m. with her boyfriend Harrison. He promises to call back at 10, but there was no answer.
Yeah, I talked to her on the phone, and we were just having a nice conversation. There wasn't any talk of her leaving or anything, just talking about what's going on at school, what we're planning on doing for the next week.
According to Pam's grandparents, she had plans to move home to Washington. Her father, however, sees things differently.
Her grandfather had told her that he wanted her to stay until the end of the school year. If she wanted to come back after that, it was fine, but he wanted her to stay otherwise because he didn't want her to screw up her school. And I think that she felt she couldn't say, "Granddad, I'm coming home." I think that was part of the reason why she ran away.
She called, 10, 12 days earlier asking to leave, and I called her right back and said, here's the airplane flights that you can get out the next morning. And so there was never any discussion about her staying because we felt like that would screw up her school year. She was too good a student to worry about that.
Those close to Pam see evidence of a worsening relationship between her and her father. The month before she disappears, a former girlfriend files a complaint accusing Bo of mistreating Pam.
I think those people who would consider such allegations viable, let alone even reasonable, should themselves seek counseling. Because in most cases, the speakers or utterances of such drivel are both torrid and languish at best. Yeah, I'm a little terse.
No charges are filed. Bo's friends say he would never treat his children poorly, let alone abuse them.
Just based on the interaction that I saw with him and Pam, she didn't behave in any manner that would indicate that she was uncomfortable or that, around him, that she was treated in some kind of abnormal manner.
Waldher says he could see the change in Bo after Pam disappeared.
He was obviously distraught. You could always tell that in the back of his mind, he probably would rather not be at work at the moment. He'd rather be out looking for her.
Police have never officially named a suspect, but say Bo Garcia is a person of interest. He's never taken a polygraph.
By him refusing to do that, it makes me more confident that there's a problem.
In terms of family members who are accusing you of knowing something or doing something, do you feel like passing a polygraph would help?
No, I'm not concerned about that in the least bit. That's petty and trite in the best sense.
So if police approached you today and said, hey, Bo, we'd really like you to take a polygraph just to get that taken care of, would you do it?
It's not a matter of something to get taken care of.
He's not cooperating with the police. He's not clearing his name. He doesn't want to do that. What other conclusion can I come up with?
A search of their home and Pam's computer provide little help. Unfortunately, any trail leading to Pam's whereabouts ends on Fort Bragg.
A lot of people are looking at the backpack like a kind of smoke and mirrors thing, kind of distracting people over in that area while something might have been happening on the other side of town.
In order for the case to be brought to resolution, Pam needs to be located. She needs to be identified and located. Until we know truly what happened to Pam, I think everybody's considered a person of interest, whether it's Bo Garcia or any other name that's come up in the investigation.
The Waldhers admit to seeing warning signs before Pamela's move, but never imagined her safety was in jeopardy. Looking back, they think about how they would do things differently.
I never imagined her being in danger or something would happen to her that we'd never see her again.
Pam's grandparents still pray for a resolution, but have little hope she will come home safely. They're planning a memorial for October. Pam would be turning 19.
Some of her siblings expressed concerns, and I said, you shouldn't have to worry about that. she'll be safe. And so So I feel guilty in assuring that nothing would happen.
If you have any information about Pamela Michaels Waldher, call our tip line toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to our website at ncwanted.com and click Report a Tip. No tip is insignificant. You can do it. Call us right now, and remember, you don't have to reveal your identity. Stay with us. We'll recap tonight's cases and tell you what we're working on for next week. Welcome back to NC Wanted. Time now to recap tonight's cases. First, it's a case in the national spotlight. On October 5th, 2000, 4-year-old Tristan Buddy Myers disappeared from his Roseboro home. At the time, he stood about 36 inches tall and weighed nearly 40 pounds. An age progression photo shows what Buddy Myers would look like today at age 11. He has blonde hair, blue eyes, and his family says by now he's most likely starting to fill out. She's an academically gifted teenager with plans to attend an Ivy League school. Pamela Michaels Waldher was last seen January 22nd of 2005 in the Fayetteville area. According to the missing persons report, Waldher packed a bag and left her home in Fayetteville. 2 days later, her bag and coat were found on post at Fort Bragg. Pam has access to money and frequent flyer miles, but neither account has been active since her disappearance. If you have any information about Pamela Michaels Waldher or any of tonight's cases, call our tip line at 1-866-43-WANTED or log on to our website at ncwanted.com and click on Report a Tip. Next week, we'll bring you the story of Craig Johnson. His murder devastated his family and his community. But it's that same community that doesn't trust the law enforcement establishment. The murder is still unsolved and may stay that way unless people start talking. We'll look at the unsettling trend of the no-snitch tendency within the black community. Remember, together we can fight to protect the quality of life we hold dear in North Carolina. I'm Gerald Owens. Good night.